Hello children, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well and eagerly waiting to have this session with me. And in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you a little bit of grammar. We are going to discuss conditional clauses. Right, take a look at this slide. There is a dialogue between Sayuni and her father. Observe the sentences carefully. Sayuni is asking the father, "Can you come to watch Scooby-Doo with me?" And the father, you can see he's very busy, and he says, "If I finish my work, I'll come to watch Scooby-Doo with you." Hope this sentence is familiar, because I know you did a lesson on if clause type 1 in one of these lessons at a previous time. Right? So today I'm going to touch on that slightly in order to refresh your mind and help you recall whatever you have learned in that lesson, because today's lesson is based on if clause type 2. Right, and let's see what you have already learned. Right, you know that when you take an if clause sentence, there are two sections, two parts, the main clause and the subordinate clause. The main clause is the result, and the subordinate clause, which is the if clause where you have the word if, is always the condition. There's another sentence here. Now Sayuni got a little disappointed when the father was busy, so she's going to the mother. "I want to watch Scooby-Doo." And the mother is also a little busy in the kitchen, and she says, "If you give me a moment, I'll be right there, sweetie." Right? Let's take this sentence out and see what we can study from that. Right. Now let's recall the form of if clause type 1. As I mentioned earlier, there are two parts in the sentence, the main clause and the subordinate clause, which is the if clause. Observe the sentence carefully and please focus on the verb so that you can identify the tense. In the if clause, we use the present tense, simple present tense, along with if. In the main clause, we use any future tense verb. Look at the example once again. If you give me a moment, the verb give is a simple present verb. I will be right there, sweetie. Simple future. If I finish work, the verb finish in the simple form, simple present form. I'll come to watch Scooby-Doo with you. I will come. Simple future. Right. Hope you are ready now to step onto the next section, that is conditional type 2. Right. So remember the structure of the sentence, especially those two parts, and also if type 1 is used to talk about possible situations, probable situations. Where do we use conditional type 2 is a big question, children. Look at this. We use conditional type 2 to talk about imaginary situations. What do you mean by imaginary situation? When you imagine something, you know that it is not real. It's unreal and unlikely. So there is very less chance for that to occur, for that to happen. Right? Let's discuss further. Now in the school where Ramal, Gihan and Champi study, they had a lottery. And the teacher comes to the class and asks a question. If you won the lottery, what would you do? Is the question. And all three students, Ramal, Gihan and Champi, are giving an answer. Please observe the answers they are giving. Ramal says, "If I won the lottery, I would donate a half of it to the school." Such a generous boy, isn't he? And Gihan says, "If I won the lottery, I would buy a car." And Champi says, "I would fly to another country if I won it." right? Please keep the sentences in your mind. I'm going to discuss further. Right, let's take a look at the first sentence uttered by Ramal. Remember what he said? He said, if I won the lottery, I would donate half of it to the school. Right. Has Ramal won the lottery? No, not really, right? So, did he give half of the money to school? No. There's no possibility for him to do that. It would happen only if he won it. So, when the boy Ramal said, I would donate, it was just an imagination. He imagines, right? And then, what time does this refer to? This is an important point. It is an imaginary present time. So, at present, only you can imagine. He's imagining at present, right? And then, does this sentence make a prediction? It does. It doesn't confirm anything. It doesn't say, yes, it will happen 100%. No, just a prediction. He says, yes, the result will happen only if something in the present were different. If it depends on the condition here, right? Otherwise, there's no chances for the result to occur, right? Okay, don't worry if you have not understood this. I have a few more sentences like this so that we'll discuss further. The second one, if I won the lottery, I would buy a car. Did I win the lottery? No. Will I buy a car definitely? No. Okay, it's a question mark. Does this sentence make a prediction? Of course, yes, that's a prediction, right? The result will happen only if something in the present were different. Okay, I should win the lottery if I am to buy the car, right? But the situation is different. If I won the lottery, I have no clue, right? I would buy a car. So still it's in the air. It's like an imagination, right? I have not confirmed anything yet because I'm not in a position to do that, right? Because I know that there's less chance for this to happen, right? Okay, let's take a look at the other sentence as well. If I won the lottery, I would donate a half of it to the school. Just like the sentence I showed you based on if clause type 1. In if clause type 2 also, we have two sections or two parts. You know what they are? The main clause and the subordinate clause, which is the if clause, right? Hope you can clearly see that here. And let's see some other facts which we have to keep in mind. Now look at this one, the importance of the punctuation mark. If I won the lottery, comma, I would buy a car, right? When you start your sentence with the conditional clause, you separate the conditional clause and the main clause with a comma. Please keep that in mind, right? But if you write it the other way around, if you write or if you start your sentence with the main clause and add the if clause later, then there is no need for you to use the comma to separate the two parts of the sentence, right? Please keep this in mind. This is very important. Right, now let's take a look at the form. Another important fact you have to keep in mind. Right, now please recall what you did in if clause type 1. Remember the verb forms and take a look at this one. If I won the lottery, I would buy a car. What do you see in the if clause? What tense do you see in the verb used in the if clause? One is the past form of win, right? So we are using past simple form in the if clause. And if you go to the other part of the sentence, which is the main clause, which is the result of the condition, there you can clearly see the modal verb would along with the infinitive form of the verb, that is the base form of the verb. Would plus infinitive, would plus buy. The verb buy has been used. Hope this is clear. Please keep in mind, let me repeat, we use the simple past in the if clause and we use would along with the infinitive form of the verb in the main clause. Right. Now let's take a look at this slide. This is another important thing you should keep in mind. The be verb after the subject in the if clause will be were. You know what be verbs are, don't you? Look at the slide. The verbs am, is, are, was, were, being and being come under the be verb. You know that according to the pronouns we change it, but in if conditional clause, keep in mind we use the be verb were with all the pronouns. Right? Another important fact you should definitely remember. Look at the example. If I were your best friend, usually we say I am if it is present, we say I was if it is past, but here it's different. Okay, this happens only in if clause type 2. Please remember, if I were your best friend, I would change your path. Right? And also remember that even though we are using a simple past verb, we are talking about the present situation, because I told you that this is imagination. Right? Okay. Another fact, adding more facts to your knowledge, sometimes it's possible to use should, could or might in place of would. You know, all of these are modal verbs. Right? Initially I told you that we use the modal verb would in the main clause along with the base form of the verb. But at the same time, please keep in mind that we can also use the modal verbs should, could or might according to the sentence. Look at the example. If I had ₹1,000,000, I could travel around the world. So here I mean the ability. Right? If I had ₹1,000,000, I could. That means I'll be able to. Right? But I don't have money. So it's just an imagination at the moment. Right? Okay. Activity time. Right. Now imagine. It's all about imagination. Imagine that you took an adventurous journey around the world and got trapped in a desert island. But don't worry. You see a box of things near the shore, right? You go close to the box and you are given a chance to choose whatever you need for your survival, because you are trapped in the island and you're going to survive there for how long, no one knows. Right, so these are the items you find in the box. There is a tent house, there is a hammock, a rope, a bag of food, an axe, water, hand lens, a box of matches. Right? Just pick the most important, most necessary items from this box and we are going to write sentences based on that. Look at the first one. If I were trapped on a desert island, I would take bottles of water. Right? Because you need a lot of water to survive. Right? Look at these two pictures. See what else I have chosen from the box. See whether you can make your own sentences following the structure and based on these pictures. Right? Give it a try, please. Hope you are done. Let's check it out. Right, the second one. If I were trapped on a desert island, I would take a rope with me. Right, so I have taken two things from the box. And what do you think the third one? You can see the picture clearly. So how would you put that into a sentence? Very good. If I were trapped on a desert island, I would take some food with me. Hope you observed the sentence structure. If I were trapped, I would take. Clear? Right. Another task. This is a little difficult, okay, because I know that you are clever children, so I thought of giving you a little difficult task, right? Give it a try. Look at the picture and look at the sentence given. She will not buy a new dress because she doesn't have money, right? So there is no possibility of this lady buying that new dress. Why? She doesn't have money. If you are to convey this using an if clause type 2 sentence, how would you write it? It's a challenge. Hope you would like to take it. I have given a slight help anyways. If she, that means you're going to start your sentence with the if clause. Give it a try. You are supposed to use the simple past verb in the if clause, and in the main clause you should use would along with the base form of the verb. Hope you gave it a try. Let's check the answer. Right, if you have this in your writing book, excellent job. If she had money, she would buy a new dress. Let me repeat. If she had money, she would buy a new dress. Right. Another statement like that. You have two here. There are pictures. Let me read the sentences for you and you better try on your own. I don't have his phone number, so I can't call him. Right? So once again it starts with an if clause. If I think about it, I don't have the phone number, so I can't call him. If I think about it, remember the tenses and complete your sentences. And the second one down here, she doesn't have any matches, so she can't light the fire. So that also starts with if she. I know you're enjoying this task. Let's check your answers quickly. The first one, if I had his phone number, I could call him. Do I have his phone number? No. So calling him is just, not possible, right? So in my imagination, I say, if I had his phone number, I could call him, right? And the second one, if she had some matches, she would light the fire, right? If she had some matches, she would light the fire, right? There are two more sentences. Observe the pictures carefully. I can't fly because I'm not a bird, right? Now put it into an if clause type 2 sentence. If I, the rest is in your hands. And the next one, he doesn't take any exercise, that's why he's weak. Try that out as well. If he. So all these sentences start with an if clause. Therefore, you should also remember the comma. Right? Let's check the answers. There you go. If I were a bird, I could fly. Right? So this is simply an imagination for you and I. Right? And if he took exercise, he would be strong. Observe the comma as well. Right. I hope you did an excellent job, children. Let's move on to the next activity. Right. Give it a thought. If you lived in a rural village, what would you do? What I mean here is the activities, maybe leisure time activities, right? Mostly if it comes to a rural village, we know that we can spend more time in the natural surrounding. Look at the pictures. Think about it. Imagine that you are in a village, in a rural area, far away from the city, the hustle bustle of the city. So the village is calm and quiet. It is surrounded by mountains. You can see rivers, streams and lakes. It's beautiful. So give it a thought. Imagine. Type 2 is all about imagination. Write a few sentences on your own. I shall write mine as well, and then we'll compare as usual and see how we have done it. Right, let's take a look at the sentences now. One by one. If I lived in a rural village, I would swim in the streams. Right, so this is one activity I would do. Right? Okay. And then, if I lived in a rural village, I would walk in the beautiful paddy fields. You don't see paddy fields right in the middle of the city, do you? Right? So if you are in a rural village, you can definitely see a lot of paddy fields, and it's a wonderful experience to walk in the beautiful paddy fields. So if I lived in a rural village, I would walk in the beautiful paddy fields. So this is another imagination of mine. Right. I would fly kites in the evenings if I lived in a rural village. Another activity which I would do. Right? I hope you also have similar kinds of activities, and you have definitely written it keeping the rule in mind, the rules of writing a sentence using if clause type 2. And another one. If I lived in a rural village, I would climb mountains with my friends. Even this experience we can have in a village. Right? So all this could happen only if I get a chance to settle down in a rural village. Therefore, at the moment I'm speaking to you, it's just an imagination. Right? Hope you understood how we form sentences using if clause type 2, and also where to use them to express what we use these sentences. Alright children, that's it for today. And today's lesson was based on if conditional clause type 2. Hope you remember the tenses we used in the if clause and in the main clause. We use the simple past tense in the if clause, and we use would along with the infinitive form of the verb in the main clause. Hope you enjoyed the lesson, and it's time now for me to say goodbye. Please keep revising and enjoy your holidays until we meet again. Thank you.